loans, he has spent over $2.8 billion, and that is a failed project under this administration. And they have now come back to tell us they have found a good deal by selling the World GTL plant, which it cost us, the taxpayers, of $2.8 billion to a company called I.A.N Energy Trinidad for $35 million US. But the $35 million US is made up of only a payment of $10 million US, that is approximately 70 million TT dollars, on a project that is $2.8 billion, brothers and sisters. Tonight, I will tell you about World GTL. On Friday in Parliament, the Minister of Energy announced this government was going ahead with a deal with I.A.N Energy Trinidad to sell off the assets of this multi-billion-dollar project. Imagine after spending over $400 million US or 2.8 billion, the Minister of Energy comes to say that this is a good deal for Petrotrin and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to remind the people of this audience here and the citizens that on June 26, 2016, our political leader, the opposition leader, in a Monday night forum in Rio Claro, said that the I.A.N deal needs to be answered, and I quote, Kamla wants Imber to come clean on the GTL sale. That was in June 29, 2016. On Friday, on June 29, 2018, the Minister of Energy comes back in Parliament and talks about selling off, and he sold off the World GTL plant to I.A.N Energy. You understand, they have tried to hide this for the past 2 years, but the opposition leader will expose everything, just like she did with the fake oil, my brothers and sisters. $2.8 billion could have been spent on the Children's Hospital, but it gets worse, my brothers and sisters. On the Trinidad Express yesterday, Asha Javid, we would have seen that article. The transaction requires that Petrotrin not only selling off to I.A.N Energy, but what the deal is going to happen now, they're asking us when that plant becomes operational, that Petrotrin buys all the products, all the diesel and the byproducts from that energy company, that will GTL. But it gets worse. If you think the Galleon passage was bad and the bubble with that, WGTL with I.A.N Energy is another fish that smells rotten to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. My brothers and sisters, only last week, and not only about the World GTL, what is also going to happen, that this government has promised to give over 35 million cubic feet of gas on a daily basis to this I.A.N Energy to run that plant. And they say we have a shortage of energy and gas, my brothers and sisters. But I want to say, who is I.A.N? I.A.N is the friends and family of this PNM government. And before I get there, I want to tell you that the reason why I.A.N Energy has been sold off, back in 2007, in Parliament, they passed a fiscal bill which would have given the World GTL plant a tax holiday and income tax, free from income tax on dividends and distributions, and free from custom duties on anything that has to do with that plant. That is the reason I feel that they sold this plant in I.A.N Energy. And we have to ask the question, if this fiscal policy that was granted for the World GTL, for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, will also apply to this I.A.N Energy company. Brothers and sisters, let me talk about the I.A.N directors. So I.A.N is a friend of the PNM. According to the report, some well-known names are involved. You know the name Alison Lewis? Alison Lewis was the permanent secretary in the office of the Prime Minister. She was also chairman of the port when the Cabo Star and the Galleon Passage was purchased under this government. She is on the board of I.A.N Energy. Let me tell you another individual. The vice chairman is an independent senator called David Small. He is a senator. He sits as a senator in this parliament, my brothers and sisters. I will talk more about David Small at another time. Also, there's one Ansel Gill, who worked as a lobbyist under the Manning administration. He is the CEO of this company. He has received over $15 million TT dollars from this government and from you, the taxpayers, my brothers and sisters. Is this a political favor? And even recently on April 17, OWTU questioned the secrecy of this deal, as well as warning against selling WGTL. As they said, and I quote, the officials, the sale of this failed WGTL plant to I.A.N Energy could threaten the progress of working on restructuring the state-owned oil company of Petrotrin. My brothers and sisters, a lot more as he said, but let me tell you about the fake oil. And even in the Sunday Express, what they have said in the Sunday Express editorial, they said, whoa, not so fast on the WGTL NICON deal. So even the people of this country are questioning this deal, my brothers and sisters. This deal with NICON Energy smells very, very rotten, my brothers and sisters. I want to talk quickly about the fake oil because my time is running out. Our political leader last year in September at a meeting in Pointe-a-Pierre, she came and she exposed the fake oil racket with AV drilling and this Keith Rowley administration. And to date, $80 million has not been accounted for, and we must not let them forget that, my brothers and sisters. So my brothers and sisters, and also recently on the Sunday Newsday yesterday, we saw another fake oil issue with a Petrotrin tanker and as a contractor bringing, and it had something to do with the tanks being, fictitious. So brothers and sisters, my time is running short, and I have much more to say, but I'm sure other speakers will talk about it. But in closing, my brothers and sisters, let me tell you, I want to say one thing, the Energy Committee. There's a JSC Energy Committee, and to date, the last time we met, I sit on that Energy Committee. The chairman of that Energy Committee is none other than Coleman Burt. Also sits as vice chairman is Senator MP Young, Stuart Young. David Small sits on that Energy Committee. To date, when we asked the question about NICON sale, they never brought us back to the Energy Committee to discuss it, my brothers and sisters. So in closing, let me quickly say, tonight is a great night. In FYZABAD, Petrotrin is very important to our people and our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say we must not let them forget the Malcolm Jones debacle. We must not let them forget about the fake oil. We must not let them forget about the scandals. And in closing, I want to say to you, on July the 16th, we have two individuals, Barataria and Belmont East. I want you to go out and bring out your friends and families up in Port of Spain, in Belmont, and in Barataria, and make our party strong again. Long live this United National Congress. Long live our political leader, the Honorable Kamla's successor. Long live the United National. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Lee. I want to recognize amongst us Dr. Persad Parasram, a founding member of the United National Congress, Senator PRO of the United National Congress, Senator Anita Haynes, and also our chairman of our party, Mr. Peter Kanhai. I want to recognize my chairman of the Sipaya Regional Corporation, his lovely wife, Dr. Glenn Ramadar Singh. And I know time is running out, but like Dr. Lee said, and we must remember, some of the young people will forget, Petrotrin is not the headache. The headache is the whole government giving this whole country a headache. That is the problem. The government is the headache to the citizens of this country. I know the young people in this country will not remember Project Pride. They will not remember the horse and dog racing complex that was going to be built in Caroni. Dr. Parasram, you remember that? They will not forget the $500 million feasibility study for a rapid rail. All these is money that the PNM racketed. I went to the opening of the highway recently. A storm hit. I was not invited, although part of the highway fell in my electoral district. When I went in there, Stuart Young, UNC this, UNC that, UNC the next. I have to message Dr. Bodo. I said, Doc, is this a UNC meeting? When I found out, they are telling nobody that the highway you drove on and came down just now started under the People's Partnership led by Kamla Persad Bisesa. You see the wonderful piece of road coming from by Gulf City to Oropuch. They will not tell nobody that. And if you see Rowley smiling and cutting ribbon down Oropuch, I found out that Stuart Young's name is really Stuart Young Lai. So it is my pleasure now to introduce a young man who was appointed to the Senate recently and have done justice to that. He's a holder of a BSc and MBA in Economics and Finance, past student of Presentation College San Fernando, background in national service as a teacher, lecturer in economics, business development officer, junior economist, and banker. I give to you Mr. Tahaka Obika. It's hard to pronounce his name, eh? He is a UNC to the bone.
Good evening. Good evening. FYZABAD, how you feeling? You feeling good? Say yeah. All right. What we have in front of us is a challenge. What was a smooth path to development left by a UNC-led government under the distinguished leadership of Kamla Persad, the PNM under Dr. Rowley has resulted in the pathway to development being filled with potholes, just as the road to Point Fortin and the road to Mayaro is filled with potholes. The pathway to development under this clueless government with no plans for diversification and development of the economy has resulted in potholes so that the vehicle of the economy is crashing, and in many instances has crashed. And I will demonstrate to you how that has happened, and also to remind you of the plans that were in place, of the things that were laid down under the People's Partnership government, under the leadership of Kamla Persad from 2010 to 2015, that would have turned around the economy, that made everyone feel that better days are no longer coming, but better days had arrived by 2015. Just to remind you, over 35,000 jobs lost, based on the statistics as of last year. If we really bring it to this year, the figure could really be over 50,000. There is no plan to diversify the economy. In fact, the Prime Minister considers diversification a dirty word. Tax upon tax upon tax. I will show you and remind you of all the taxes that have been imposed on all the people of this country. Because we must not forget the wickedness that they have been imparting on us. Recently, in the mid-year review for the budget, the Minister of Finance, that clueless Minister of Finance, who's supposed to be an engineer, but that and all is up to question, took out over $790 million from the Infrastructure Development Fund to transfer for recurring expenditure. What does that mean? The money that is required to transform the economy in long-term projects, sustainable projects, a plan for education, in terms of industrial development, developing industrial complexes, that money is diverted to expenditure for a day-to-day basis, basically to pay the friends and family members, because this is our friends and family, PNM, under Dr. Rowley. Unless you are a close member of the inner circle, of a family, of a high-ranking PNM official under Dr. Rowley's administration, you are out of the development agenda. Of course, that means nepotism, corruption, and no development. Woe be unto the people of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to that. Of course, we are very aware of the tax, borrow, and spend agenda, but it's worth reminding you of that. For the first 2 years, this government under Dr. Rowley always tries to speak about how much money was spent under the People's Partnership led by Kamla Persad. But if you look at the figures and the facts, which we have thankfully in front of us, from 2011 and 2012, those 2 financial years, the first 2 years of government, $110.19 billion was spent under the leadership of Kamla Persad. The PNM, in their first 2 years, 2016 and 2017, spent $112.17 billion, almost $2 billion more than Kamla Persad-Bissessa's government. So what is more, 2016 to 2017 or 2011 to 2012? So after having spent $112 billion in the first 2 years, and you are seeing increased hardships, you have increased taxes on corporations, so therefore companies are finding it difficult to invest in Trinidad and Tobago because you are faced with a corporation tax of 30%, and in the case of banks, 35%, which only means that when you and I and the average citizen goes to the banks in this country, they are faced with higher fees. And you have to remember the fees are not regulated by the central bank based on the legislation in Trinidad and Tobago. So therefore, the banks have a free rein. The government squeezes them on one end, and you feel the pinch in your pocket. and in your bank account when you check your monthly fees. That is a direct result of the incompetence of the Minister of Finance, who only seeks taxing the population as a solution. Now, this government is an incredible government. It's an incredible government because only they know what the figures are. Only they know what the facts are. And in fact, when they don't agree with every single economist in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, they create their own facts and they create their own statistics. When that is not enough, they disagree with the IMF's projections, and the Minister of Finance, Imbud, creates his own projections for the economy with no basis in evidence and proof. As a result of that, their main economist, who was in their corner, Dr. Terence Farrell, had no choice but to resign from the Economic Development Advisory Board. And with the drumming, I'm sure it means our political leaders arrived. So we can all stand and welcome the political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Siparia, Kamla Persad Bisesa.
So friends, let's give a FYZABAD welcome to the best Prime Minister this country has ever seen between 2010 and 2015. Our next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, 2020 or whenever election is called, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bisesa.
I was waiting for so
Now to come to FYZABAD today, you know, point 14 is after FYZABAD. We had a Senate sitting. So I rushed straight from the Senate to come here. And one of the matters that were raised in the Senate last week was the government is coming back to the population to borrow, but in a technical way, the issuance of bonds. That matter will be prosecuted after. However, I want you to really pay attention to that. The National Investment Fund, in effect, is government borrowing $4 billion from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, so let's go further. The only shining light in anything in Trinidad and Tobago's economy today is as a direct result of the leadership of Kamla Persad from 2010 to 2015. And I'll explain to you how. If you turn to the Central Bank Economic Bulletin, all the successive bulletins from last year to now have been citing one main thing. The foreign agencies that are rating Trinidad and Tobago have cited one main thing. That is the oil finds and the platforms and the commercialization of truck, Angeline, Juniper have resulted in a curtailment of the gas supply problem in Trinidad and Tobago. So there is gas flowing now. It has resulted in downstream activity in the energy sector growing as a direct result of that because they now have gas to supply them. But this government, under Dr. Rowley, found no reason to praise the UNC-led government. In fact, they left the blame squarely at this party by stating that the focus on the accelerated debt recovery was the reason why there is no money in the country. However, how can it be that they are taking the praise for the work that we have done? It cannot be if you are happy and you are praising the increase in gas supply and you are praising the work of the upstream sector and that impact on the downstream energy sector, you must first lay praise where praise is due, right here at the United National Congress and the leadership from 2010 to 2015 of the Honorable Prime Minister at that time and soon to be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad Bissassa. Now, in the just under 4 minutes I have, I want to also remind you of the good work that was done and the way forward. The way forward for this country is diversification. The Prime Minister calls it a dirty word. But if you look at the examples of most countries across the world, diversification is not only for the economy, but it's in their thinking. A simple case, for example, the foreign exchange issue. The governor of the Central Bank of China was here recently. In Nigeria, another oil-dependent country for exports and foreign exchange, they have signed a currency swap deal with the Chinese. So therefore, if you're a Nigerian trader in Lagos, Nigeria, you need to import or do business with China, you don't have to first do as we do right now, which is buy US and then convert that US to Chinese. You can swap directly your Nigerian currency for the Chinese currency. That reduces one problem that you have. You will still have to find foreign exchange to deal with the Americans and the Europeans. But if a lot of our imports to our manufacturing, to our processing, is with the Chinese, it makes only common sense to have that deal in place. But this government, of course, that is a question that we raised in the Senate, but you know it takes a month to get a question approved that's supposed to take 21 days thereafter. So what's supposed to take us 3 weeks? They make us wait 3 months before we get the question asked so that they can find the answer out. But we will deal with them. Now, as I wind down my presentation, growth polls. Remember that this government under Dr. Rowley has crashed the economy. The blame for crashing the economy is squarely at the feet of the incompetent Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, the incompetent and inept Minister of Finance, Colin Burt. Under the United National Congress-led People's Partnership government, when we had the 2015 manifesto, we spoke to you of the blue economy, the green economy, the silver economy. What this government has done with the silver economy is said, once you're over 50, no access to gate. They have closed the silver economy for persons above 50 years in Trinidad and Tobago. They have no idea as to what the workforce will look like with an aging economy. We understand the importance of that. the blue economy. In Barbados, under the new government, with no opposition in Barbados, a resounding victory for Mia Mottley, she has instituted a Ministry of Maritime and the Blue Economy. Now, we were singing that song since 2015. Of course, I'm sure the people of Trinidad and Tobago, given the example of Barbados, will look back and dust off the manifesto of 2015 and realize that we had prominence on that, the blue economy. And every single international organization worldwide is focused on the importance of the blue economy going forward. However, this government seems to laugh in Parliament every time we mention the blue economy because they don't understand. And the Minister of Trade, instead of thanking us for the work we have done, has trumped $3 billion TT over 3 years to 2020 as the hopes for foreign direct and local investment. Therefore, there is no plan to attract investment, which means there is no plan to make Trinidad and Tobago an attractive investment destination. Of course, you know there is no plan. Another point raised is the incentivization of business. It's not necessary that you subsidize all activity, but if you have a growth pole strategy in Trinidad and Tobago, as we espouse in the United National Congress, we will incentivize companies to participate in particular sectors in the growth poles. So we have the East-West Corridor as a key growth pole, where we will bring back light manufacturing. We'll bring back the manufacturing centers and the approach to solving the problem of creating foreign exchange at a local level. We will devolve, or decentralize is another word, the whole process of industrialization. And to close, what is this government's understanding of industrialization? They don't understand the connection of technical vocational skills to industrialization. In South, they have closed the National Energy Skills Center in Point Fortin, in Palo Seco, and in Maruga. And when we asked them the question in Parliament, the Minister of Education sought to ridicule us. And of course, the tech parks remain empty. So, on a closing note, the only hope for this country is the leadership of Kamla Persad and the United National Congress. As we have a plan, we have a vision, and we will rescue this government. We will rescue this country from the incompetence of Dr. Keith Rowley and the A.N. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Obika. And Senator, this thing you're saying about incompetence, say it like me now. This is the worst PNM with the worst Prime Minister this country has ever seen. Don't make it sound nice, incompetent. It's the worst government this country has ever seen. My friends, it's a privilege to bring on a gentleman who really needs no introduction. All the houses that the PNM is giving out now is what he built under the People's Partnership. He's the man that has the PNM on the run in Parliament. He's the man that broke the news where children were being trained on a camp with high-powered rifles. I give to you the Honorable Dr. Rudal Munila.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my good friend, Councillor Meru, the political leader of the United National Congress, Member of Parliament for Siparia, opposition leader, and the next Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bisessa, Dr. Gregory Bisessa, officers of our party, colleagues on the platform, parliamentary colleagues in the audience, members of the local government community, brothers and sisters assembled here in mass in FYZABAD. The hall is completely full. I think we don't even have standing room inside this massive hall, and I acknowledge the hundreds of persons on the roadway standing to listen to this meeting. Our supporters, friends, and family throughout the United States, Europe, in the Caribbean, and elsewhere, tune in to our radio broadcasts and internet broadcasts. Good evening from the constituency of FYZABAD, and a special thank you and greetings to our very dynamic Member of Parliament in this area, the very distinguished Dr. Lakram Persad Bodo. Thank you for your hospitality. Brothers and sisters, this evening we meet in FYZABAD, in an area and a region that has given birth to democracy in this country. FYZABAD is the cradle of our democratic upbringing, since it was the labor leaders in this region who gave birth to those principles of democracy, equality, social justice, and national unity. It is quite fitting that we reassemble here time and time again to renew our spirit and to rededicate ourselves to those principles as we confront this tyranny of a PNM government bent on destroying our democracy, destroying our society, and indeed collapsing all decency in this country as we knew it between 2010 and 2015. Today our nation is unrecognizable from the paradise that Kamla Persad Bisesa left in 2015. This country, today life is nasty, brutish, and short. It is a daily burden to survive in this country. Whether you are a businessman, a worker, a churchgoer, an ordinary citizen, life has become burdensome. Today, there's an epidemic of crime, uncontrollable crime plaguing this country. If you are sleeping in the night and a mango fall on the galvanized, you jump up from your bed. If you are sleeping and you hear your dog barking, you get frightened. If you are sleeping and you don't hear your dog barking, you get more frightened. That is the country we are living in today. It is so because we have a prime minister here who frequently, he comes back to Trinidad as a visitor. He come back, he make 2 back, and then he gone again. He's going again to Jamaica at the end of this week. That is why in Parliament he gave us a few back a few days ago, because he is returning as a visitor. He has no commitment to this country. He has no commitment to the people. Whether he's sleeping away in a mosque or waking in a carnival fete, the fella is the most incompetent prime minister this country has ever seen. We witness on a daily basis robbery. We witness murder. Some of us are becoming numb to these, internet, social media video of murder each and every day. They kill a coconut vendor one day, a watermelon vendor the next day. They rob Massey shop in San Fernando. On the Mosquito Creek here, they had cremation, and the bandits came, and when they start to play tassa, they use the noise there to break people's glass in the car and go and rob people at the Mosquito Creek. That is where we are living in. That is the state of the country. It had never been as bad as this, even under Patrick Manning during 2001-2010. But brothers and sisters, they blame everybody possible. They blame the political leader. They blame the UNC. They blame the police. They blame the working class labor movement. They blame everybody they could find except themselves. Every day, a government minister quarreling with people in his own ministry, because the national approach of Rowley is to buff up everybody in sight. He will just buff up everybody. It is the most arrogance we have seen of any leader. And it doesn't matter if he wears a suit from Savile Row or he wears a suit from Saddle Road. It don't matter. The suit cannot change that mentality of arrogance. The suit cannot change that mentality of bad governance. He led a trip to China and Australia. He gone to Australia to buy boat, as if he in Shagwana's buying tile. Come back to the country. He said, we see boat, we like boat, we buy boat. It have places you just buy like that too, but we won't talk about that tonight. Brothers and sisters, the image of the police has taken a beating under this government, clearly because the image of the police is bad as it is because there's no political leadership in this country. There's no political leadership. There's no governmental leadership. There's no control and direction. So that is why the police image is today the worst it has ever been. When we were in office, we worked with the same police. We work with the same acting commissioner. We work with the same institution. And we were able to bring serious offenses down by almost 50% between 2009 and 2014. And serious offenses are serious. It's larceny, rape, breaking in your house and so on, home invasion, stealing cars. Serious offenses came down because we were able to work with the police. They came into office. They have dismantled 50 policies and projects of the former administration out of spite, out of hate, and out of bitterness. A few days ago, on the 22nd of June, the opposition leader announced, and the member for Naparima, Rodney Charles, moved a motion of no confidence in Edmund Dillon. You all saw it? Rodney Charles, he made a brilliant speech to pilot that motion. When Dillon time came to talk, he started to cry. He said, what are you doing me this for? I served the country. I was, during the 1990 coup, I was in charge of defusing bomb. Well, we thank God it had no bomb. But I want to tell Dillon tonight, we thank God for your service to this nation in the Defense Force, but we ask God to protect us from your incompetence as a Minister of National Security. Brothers and sisters, Maxi Coffee is doing a better job than this Dillon fella. As soon as he came in office, he broke the law, and there's a judgment. Time will not permit me to read, but there's a judgment in a high court matter that came out recently involving a worker, Carlton Denny. The judgment came out, brothers and sisters, in which a high court judge, I think it is High Court Judge Margaret Mohammed, indicated in this judgment that the Minister of National Security, of all people, in her conclusion, the Minister of National Security, in relation to a matter involving the Strategic Services Act. Now, the Strategic Services Act gave rise to the Strategic Services Institution. That is a critical pillar in the fight against crime. They deal with intelligence and spying, importantly. Spying and gathering intelligence, working with the police and so on. And the minister, as early as November 2015, gave instructions telling one set of people, get out of here, hand over the files, hand over duties to another set of people, because they were then trying to throw out anybody who the partnership appoint. And in doing so, he broke the law and his directives to hand over files, critical files, brothers and sisters, critical resource. The SSA has at its disposal over $500 million of resources. And Edmund Dillon, in giving those instructions, he acted illegally and ultra vires outside of his power. This is a high court judgment of Margaret Mohammed, Justice Margaret Mohammed, handed down in this matter, brothers and sisters. It is dated April 2018. So as early as 2015, he broke the law. It came out now. As if that wasn't good enough, he then became embroiled. Well, he dismantled everything the UNC and partnership put in place. The Community Comfort Patrol, the E999, the National Operations Center, you name it, they dismantled it. And then we found out, brothers and sisters, that he was involved, he was spending time in New York in a court matter, a private court matter. Well, I tell you, the only thing Edmund Dillon teaches us is that they have an offense in America called elderly abuse. Now, we know that in Trinidad, long time we used to say, well, you know, you're trying to thief mommy pension, or you're trying to thief nanny pension and thing, you know. That's what we used to call it. Anybody trying to swindle the old people for money and thing, you say, well, you're trying a shot. But in America, it's called elderly abuse. We learned that because of that case, where he was accused of illegally and fraudulently transferring property to himself, including bank account. We just forget the bank account part. We just remember the apartment. But brothers and sisters, this thing going on behind closed back, pusur all the time. We ain't hear nothing. Suddenly, Dillon comes suddenly. He said the matter solved. The court say I free and I clear. But they said not to say nothing else except I clear. When the story broke again, he had to return this property to the old man. A old fella, he had to return the property, a luxury apartment in New York, for $10 US. Now, how much all you would like to get an apartment in Manhattan for $10 US? Huh? And all you would like to get that? We want to know when that apartment was purchased. When was it purchased? Who was it purchased by? Because I know that if somebody get old, my childhood friend, they say, well, look, we like you. So take this $6 million apartment we like. In fact, I have a bank account. Take that too. Now, that could happen. It's reasonable, I guess. So we're not arguing with that, but that matter is not closed, brothers and sisters. We ought to know when that property was purchased. How a person in the 80s and so on, a port worker in New York, could afford a luxury apartment in Manhattan. Not a basement apartment in Queens, you know, a luxury. And then said in the court documents that they have a next apartment or house in Florida. Where Mr. Dillon tonight, that matter is not over. And that is a matter, brothers and sisters, we intend to take forward on the platform. So, brothers and sisters, we don't have much time, but to tell you that we do have plans to deal with crime. We do have plans to deal with the gang warfare. And we do have plans to provide safety and security to this nation. Thank you all. May God bless our great party. And may God bless you, the people of FYZABAD. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Munila. You know, I was looking at CNN the other day, a few days ago, looking at CNN, and they said that President Trump lied 60 times in April and 103 times in June. I suspect we're probably going to try to break that record sooner or later. So without further ado, let me introduce Councillor Shankar Tilok Singh.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen, our political leader. I have a very limited time, just about a minute and a half to introduce a very special person into FYZABAD. No stranger to us. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of the United National Congress. I am so pleased to be with you tonight, and the honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker. She is a person who has always had a clear vision for Trinidad and Tobago, our country, a vision for children who will not. Her vision was not to have paid for any education for our children. The vision is clear. For the fear that we had to live in our homes, she would have a clear vision in terms of how we go forward and having a safe community. Her vision for jobs and availability of all the necessary employments in Trinidad and Tobago, where hospital and medical care is readily available. She's a person who understands the cries of the people, ladies and gentlemen. She's a compassionate leader. She will bring back hope to our nation. It gives me great pleasure today to bring back our political leader, the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Persad. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for coming. Lagoon. I see the lagoon has now reached the Port of Spain. And the entire country, under the PNM, the Rowley PNM, has become a swamp. Your party is hard at work in other areas, especially at this time in Belmont East and in Barataria. We have two great candidates vying for those two by-election seats. This weekend, the last weekend gone, but yesterday in fact, our candidate in Barataria, Sharon, hosted a legal clinic at her campaign office for free legal services. And let us thank the lawyers who went up there to assist in Barataria. And in Belmont East, the candidate hosted a medical clinic. I want to thank all the doctors who were there as well to help. Next week, Sunday, July 8th, in Barataria, the candidate will be hosting a free medical clinic and vice versa. In Belmont East, a free legal clinic. This is what the UNC is good at. We have great talent, we have great skills, and we offer them in these areas where people are in need. Both of these candidates have really demonstrated a great commitment, you know, to serve, and they have been doing very well. What can you do? You here in AVOCAT, what can you do to help? And those who are listening, we ask you not to go and vote there because you will be an illegal voter. But we ask if you have friends and family to make contact with your friends and family and ask them to go out on the 16th and vote for the UNC in those two areas. You know, someone asked me, why are you going to AVOCAT? You have two by-elections, one in Belmont, one in Barataria. Why are you going to AVOCAT for the Monday night meeting? Now, those are local government seats. But I felt we have a duty and a responsibility to raise national issues on the Monday night platform, and that's why we are here tonight. My colleagues have spoken on the issue of crime, which is just skyrocketing all-time high. Dr. Munila spoke on crime. Dr. Bodo spoke on health issues. Senator Tahaka spoke about jobs and the economy, and MP David Lee spoke about the scandal and corruption that is taking place with NIQUAN and with Petrotrin. So I endorse their comments and will not repeat those, but I do have several other areas that I want to speak about tonight. One of them has to do with the new company created by the government, known as the National Investment Company, NIF. So when I speak of NIF Holdings, National Investment Fund Holdings, NIF I'm speaking of. I want to spend a little time on the property tax, and I want to spend a little time on this boat that has been forever coming and could never arrive, the Galleon's Passage. So if you would bear with me, I'll go straight into demonstrating how we can never trust this government led by Keith Rowley. This NIF is, in my view, like a Ponzi scheme. I don't know if you've heard that word before, Ponzi scheme, which is really a scam, and it's something that will collapse upon itself. And I have seen that they've been deceiving the population. I will share with you the lies that the government has been perpetrating out there about this NIF. So can we please put on that video, and can you look at the screens?
Madam Speaker, as you are aware, CL Financial is the parent company of the CL Financial Group of Companies. It is important to underscore in all of this that the government is keenly aware of the emotional attachment that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago have to the CLICO Group of Companies. The government is also aware of the fear and perception that the assets of CL Financial and CLICO will be sold to wealthy private concerns. Accordingly, the government has decided that major strategic assets of the group, as they become available from the liquidators, will be divested either by public offerings on the stock exchange or through placement in a new national mutual fund. We are making significant progress towards the launch of the National Investment Fund, which is intended to monetize the assets transferred to the government from CLICO and CID.
He's a liar, liar. Oh, he's a liar, liar. No, you can't trust him. No, 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 no. He's a liar, liar. Oh, he's a liar, liar. No, you can't trust him. No, 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 no. He's a liar, liar. Oh, he's a liar, liar. No, you can't trust him. No, no, no.
Okay, thank you, sir. I wanted you to hear it, as I say, from his own mouth. You know, we have a saying, you must hear it from his own mouth and hear it with your own ears. So here we are, October 2nd, 2017. Minister Imbert told the Parliament that he will take the assets of CL Financial and he will take these and divest them through public offerings on the stock exchange or through placement on a new national mutual fund. May 18th, 2018, 8 months later, he now tells us that there will be an initial public offering of 49.9% of the shares of the newly incorporated company, which he announced as a National Investment Fund holding company. First of all, there was no company in existence when he made the statement. A company search shows us that that company wasn't incorporated on May 29, 2018, which is just recently, last month. Further, he's now telling the country, no shares, it will be bonds. Now, this is very important because it boasted on several platforms together with the Prime Minister. Look, you will own shares. You will own part of the wealth of Trinidad and Tobago. You can buy shares in these companies, and you will be part owners, and then you will get dividends. Turns around now, and it is not shares, but it's bonds that they're selling you. And what is worse, the bonds do not have a guarantee from the government for repayment. So you buy the bonds, and at the end of the period of 5 or 10 or 20 years, there is no guarantee that the government will pay you back the money that you invested. Now, to me, that is very frightening, especially where it is the companies that they want to divest through these bonds. These are ongoing concerns. Should those companies collapse for any reason, you're not getting back your money. You will not get back the bonds. And to me, that is the greatest deception with this whole NIF scheme. So they went on, you will own shares. You will be a share owner. We are sharing the wealth. And everybody in the crowd clapping, clapping, clapping. On more than one occasion, they boasted that they will give you shares. But these bonds are nothing more than a loan. In other words, the government is borrowing from you. That's what the bonds are. When a government issues bonds, they are to raise money. The government wants to get $4 billion more from you on assets that you already owned, because the taxpayers already owned these companies, TGU, the CL, all the CL companies, Republic Bank, and so on. So that's why I'm telling you, it's like a Ponzi scheme that they're layering it, one layer on top of the other, using your assets to sell it back to you by way of bonds, and at the end of it, no government guarantee that you will get back the money you put into the bonds. And the way they're doing it is by asking you to consider that you get a higher interest rate. Higher interest rate. You know, that's exactly how CL Financial collapsed. They had a particular fund where people put millions into because they were promised very high interest rates. Do you all remember that? Dr. Tiwari, you remember it? Do you remember the name of that fund? Executive Premium something. And people put huge sums of money, and guess what happened? They were supposed to get high interest rates, but at the end of it, the bottom fell out, and everybody's money went into a big black hole. Not a cent back. So I'm warning you to be very careful. This is likewise like a Ponzi scheme, government borrowing from you based on the assets that you already own, without giving you that guarantee that at the end of the period, when the bonds are mature, that you will get the money. Further, Imbert told us he will give you significantly higher interest rates than normal for government bonds. Not true. It is not any significantly higher interest rate for borrowing on government bonds. So I don't believe him too. Then he tells us this is a gift to the nation. Yes, these bonds, I'm giving you a chance. This is a gift I'm giving you. Greatest PNM, greatest Imbert. We are so great. The economy is turning around. The economy is turning around. So you know what? We are giving you this. This is my gift to you, people of our nation. I pause here for an emergency announcement. Driver PDH 1044 to move their vehicle so that someone can be taken care of by the ambulance. PDH 1044, can you please move your vehicle? So here is a great gift that the government is offering you. But you know what they call it? A Trojan horse. This is, in fact, a Ponzi scheme, and like the Trojan horse, will destroy you and your monies. In terms of borrowing, this government has borrowed billions of dollars in the past 2 years, 9 months that they've been in office. And they've borrowed more than $17 billion in the last 33 months. And this one will take them 17 plus 4 billion. These bonds are borrowings, 21 billion. And that doesn't take into account the $1.2 billion loan they've taken from the Andean Bank. It doesn't take into account the $4.3 billion from the HSF, and now this $4 billion from the NIF. After over $152 billion in 2 years and 9 months, what does this government have to show in terms of performance? What do they have to show for $152 billion in expenditure? Can you see it? Can you see anything they've done? Well, I can see some. I can see paintings. I can see golf courses. I can see soca on the seas. I can see fake oil. Yes? We can see what is happening in Naikwan and the conditions going on there. What this government is about is the most wicked and most corrupt government ever in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And then this fellow has a brass face, but to tell us that this NIF is to create jobs. This NIF is to create jobs. This government has not created a single new job. People, over 50,000 people have lost their jobs, and he's so brass-faced and shameless to say this NIF will create jobs. That's not what it is for. First of all, those companies are already functioning companies. And unless he plans to shut them down, the jobs people are working there already have jobs, no new job. What instead would happen is this $4 billion is to be used to fund the deficit. It will be for deficit financing and not to create any new jobs for you. So everything he said about INF, believe none. Believe in none. He said, and I quote, "I am making an appeal. Support your country, support yourself, keep people in jobs, buy these bonds." Tonight, I ask you to carefully consider before you take out your hard-earned money to buy any Ponzi scheme bonds that they're offering you. And finally, on this issue, who is to benefit? Bottom line of everything, what's in it for? You. What's in it for? The ordinary man and woman in Trinidad and Tobago. The minister says that he's making provision for any person who has untouched savings of $100,000 and $250,000 you have lying around in a bank. How many people in this country have even $10 lying idle in a bank? How many people? The 1% certainly has. So the ordinary working man and now the jobless person who has to provide food, take care of his family, they are not going to be able to afford to buy these bonds, even if they want to take the risk that they will not get back their money. So there are obviously special considerations for the friends and family, the big shot friends and family of the PNM. It has been more than 1 year in this country, you know, since the government has provided unemployment statistics. The last stats are from last year, June 2017, exactly 1 year ago. And the last set of statistics, 2017, the question is, why are they hiding it? Why not provide the statistics on unemployment and job losses? And so he doesn't take care of that. Now, I know the minister prefers to ignore the level of hardship that the average person faces, you know. And they would tell you as well, in addition to this, you have to pay higher property taxes, yes. You have to pay higher utility rates. But just so you may have 100,000, 250,000 just in the bank, so you could lend it to Minister Imbert under the NIF. I ask you to think very carefully about that. The NIF is for those, I say, with the money. In FYZABAD, the trade unions gave the government a failing grade in every aspect of governance. Tonight I say, in FYZABAD, we should give them a red card and run them off the field. Take them out, give them a red card, run them out. The second issue I want to raise again when I say do not trust this PNM government, this Rowley government, it has to do with the dreaded property tax. Lie one from the government. Economy has turned around. I don't think anybody is feeling that in their pockets or feeling that at home with food on their table, that they feel safer. So I don't believe that it has turned around. But if you want to believe that we have turned around, then why is it that he's insisting on taxing you with more taxes and now this property tax? Why? If things are so great, why you are insisting on tax and tax and tax, tax, borrow and spend, tax, borrow and spend, tax, borrow and spend? That's all this government is doing with nothing to show for it. There's a great deal of uncertainty about how they will implement this property tax. There are people who have been saying that valuators are coming to their homes, yes? And I am not aware of whether these people have been trained. Because strangely enough, June 28th, which is just a couple of days ago, the Ministry of Finance issued the following: extension notice, Central Tenders Board, just a couple of days ago. Huh? But even before that, valuators come in and say they're valuators coming to value your property. And this extension notice, Central Tenders Board, asks for consulting services for the provision of technical and professional assistance, inclusive of a program of training in the valuation of industrial, commercial, mixed use, and special properties for Valuation Division, Ministry of Finance. You have valuators going out there, but you are now extending the notice of tender for people to apply to train valuators. So are those valuators coming to your homes and your businesses? Have they been trained? And if so, by whom? The closing date for this invitation to tender is 5th July 2018. So who has trained these valuators? How many of them are there? On what basis and authority are they proceeding? After they passed the property tax law and pushing implementation, they are now seeking consultants to train valuators. But that's what this government is about. That's what the government, they always put the cart before the horse. They demonstrate the highest level of incompetence that you have ever seen. Remember, that is on their word. That is what will decide what you're going to pay in the property tax. Yet still, they now seek to train people. There's also a major safety issue at this time. Dr. Munila and you and we all know spoke about crime at an all-time high. So that safety issue. There's been an enormous increase in home invasions. How are we going to identify these people who are coming to our homes? Are we going to let them into our homes? How do we know they are genuine, bona fide valuators from the Ministry of Finance? The government has not shared that information to us. And I know that many people will be very reluctant to open their doors to people to come into your homes to do anything where you're uncertain who they are, you're not sure of their identity. And again, we do not trust them, because Minister Imbert stand up nationally, publicly, and he said pensioners will not have to pay property tax. You hear a lie? That is another lie. The law as framed since 2009 is that pensioners and those on public assistance grant, disability grant, if you're on these targeted cash food cards, if you have one of those and so on, although not many people are on that now because we've also cut that down. All these people, the pensioners and others, you have to pay the tax. That is the law since 2009. And they came in 2018, when they were dealing with this law, to say that, well, you can apply for a waiver. You could apply for a deferral. Not to apply forever, I don't want to pay this, a deferral. And if they say you're one of these people and you can't afford to pay, they will give you that deferral. But guess what? The tax is attached to the property. So when they give you that deferral, it doesn't go away, you know. The tax remains on that property. And you have to apply every 2 years for the deferral. And then you work so hard your entire life. You pass it on at the end of your life to your children. Well, they are not pensioners, are they? They may not be pensioners. And when your children inherit it, they will not get the waiver. The tax would have accrued on the property, on the house, on the land. So they're deceiving the population, lying, fooling, misleading when they say pensioners don't have to pay. In fact, to me, it is worse, because when your children inherit, you are taking your lifetime. When they inherit it, they have to find that money to pay. And if they don't pay it, what happens? They will forfeit the property. They will forfeit they levy on your property, and your property can be forfeited to the government. So this is a very dangerous provision in that tax. And you know, squatters have to pay too. You do not own it, but you are An owner is defined in the property tax law as an occupier. So squatters will have to pay, but it doesn't give you a right to own the property at any point in time. So these are some of the issues that will affect the most vulnerable in our country. And again, we guard against it. I repeat what I said, and some people got vexed with me, but I want to repeat the manner in which they have formulated the property tax. I cannot agree with the provisions of the property tax. And when you put us back into government, we will remove their property tax from the statute books. Finally, I said I would speak to you about the ever coming galleons passage, which would never seem to arrive. With each day, we see more and more. They seem to think they can say and do anything and they can get away with it, but they'll get caught. They will be caught out. You know, God is great, I always say. Some time ago, we had walked out of the House of Representatives, out of the Parliament, the MPs. We had walked out because they had disgusting behavior that we did not agree with. And they were like little children putting their hands in the cookie jar. And they passed a whole set of bills without the opposition. And they think they get away with it. They were skinning and grinning, bill after bill after bill. Well, today they collapsed in the Senate today because God is great and they got caught out. So those bills they passed without us in the House, went to the Senate. But then the AG was written by the Law Association and said, listen, hold, not so fast, hold your hand. There are several things to be frightened about. But the government didn't care about that, you know, incompetent. They railroaded those bills in the House. No transparency, but they got caught. God don't sleep, only wears pajamas. They were caught today and they were forced to adjourn the Senate without railroading those bills through. So, Galleon's passage. All the reports laid in the Parliament, given to MP senators and so on, raise more questions than answers about this Galleon's passage. I like the word David Lee used when he said, something smells very rotten or fishy with respect to this Galleon's deal, just as it was about the Cabo Star, just as it was with the Ocean Flower and the entire Bridgman's deal. You remember that Bridgman's deal, our Prime Minister said to the country, something crooked in that deal. When was that? Last year sometime? Up to today, they cannot even bring the GST report on the Ferry scandal to the Parliament. And the Parliament is going to shut down at the end of this week until September. So we're not going to get that before September, if at all. They will not bring the GST report about what transpired. The Prime Minister himself says something corrupt, something crooked. But nothing is done, no one is charged, no investigation is taking place. Just like fake oil, reports said, yes, something was wrong there. Up to today, they have not sent it to the police, the report. Up to today, no one is charged. Guess why? Because it's the Prime Minister's bestie, his best friend. They will not act on their friends and family. So Tuesday, that's right, Tuesday, Wade Mark brought a motion in the Senate last Tuesday asking the government to lay all relevant documents in the Parliament to make them public with respect to the Galleon's passage now. Now this is especially important in the context where it is that it was government ministers who were the people buying this boat. Entire upside down procurement process, a cabinet committee of ministers going to buy a boat, seeking to buy a boat, and buying a boat. Procurement issues arise, and again, where is the Procurement Act? 5 years we worked on it. Why do you not proclaim it? You have the procurement regulator, you have the persons in place. Why is this government not proclaiming procurement? And I'll tell you why. You know why? Because for them and their corrupt friends and family, they will not be able to get through with the crooked deals that they're getting through with now. And so here we have Galleon's passage, ministers buying this boat, and documents called for by Senator Mark and other members spoke in the Senate. Then the senators had a press conference, and it was only after when pressure started to build on them, Imbert laid 7 documents relevant to the Galleon's passage in the Parliament. But he did not lay one most important document, and that was something called the Dunn and Bradstreet report. That report conducts a financial and forensic check on the shipyard, on the owner of the vessel, and on the builder. That report was not laid in the Parliament. Why? We call upon Minister Imbert not to hide any document. You must have that Brad and Dunn Street report. And by the way, that was the one with the Ocean Flower 2 that revealed a lot of things to us. So we call upon the minister to complete the job by handing over, making public the Dunn and Bradstreet report to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Then let's look at what questions arise with evaluations. The minister says, he gives us one of the reports, a valuation by Oceanic Design, a survey, that company is affiliated with the owner of the Galleon's Passage, something called Sea Lease Private Limited. Their valuation came in at $19 million. Okay? Then now, the way in which they did the valuation, this is what we are finding out from the documents, the way in which evaluations were done is what they call a desktop survey. In other words, they never even see the boat. They never walk on the boat. They never touch the boat. Desktop survey, you sit at your desk and you watch picture. That's how they conducted the evaluation. The second valuation came in. By Schultz Marine Concepts, SMC. So we have one by Ocean Design, 19 million. And then we have Marine Concepts, $35 to $38 million. On a desktop survey again. Never see the boat, never touch the boat, never take a little drive. I mean, if you go in and buy a little second-hand car in Trinidad, you go in and drive that car. And if you can't drive, you're making sure you put a driver, and you put a mechanic, and you check it out. You're not buying no old rusty car. You will test run it yourself, or someone you send to do it. Now, I wouldn't know about the mechanic, but I'll send somebody who's a mechanic. And these days, I stopped driving because too many traffic accidents, so I'll send a driver. I'll send Greg, and hope that he could check it out. So this is, you know, the recklessness and the negligence, incompetence. You see, but incompetence is a nice word. Nice word, just mean they are not competent. But you have to ask if there is more in the motor than the pestle. That is not just incompetence, but is there corruption in this entire deal? Is there corruption in this deal? So you have one valuation, 19 million. You have another valuation, 38 million. So what you do? You say, okay, I'll pay you 17 million. If you get two such drastically opposed, so they say diametrically opposed valuation, you have a duty to the people to seek a third valuation. How from 19 it could go up to 38 million? And this is US, I'm not TT dollars, so it's plenty money we're talking about. No due diligence by the government. The valuation, as I said, has more questions than answers, but the time will not permit me to really go through all of them. I'll just say, for example, the builder of the vessel has never constructed a vessel of this size. They have never done it, okay? No track record by this builder that constructed the vessel. There's no track record at all in building these kinds of boats. The vessel having been completed, the plans and assessments were not available. And the question is why. Now, I will skip all of that. There are a lot of questions with evaluations, and there are lots of things dealing with the deficiencies of the boats and so on, which will become public as the reports are shared. But a big question that arises for me now is, I want to find out, did a high official of Trinidad and Tobago attend a global energy conference in Russia last year? And did a high official of Venezuela attend the same global energy conference in Russia last year, just about the time when we were looking for a boat? And did they exchange notes? And is that how, when Venezuela did not want the boat, remember it was to go to Venezuela first, that Venezuela did not want the boat, and they said, Trinidad, our partners, you take the boat. That's one question. Was a deal brokered in Russia? And not World Cup football I'm talking about. I'm talking about this Galleon's Passage. I have evidence that these two officials did, in fact, appear in Russia, and I call on the Minister of Energy to tell us whether any high government official met with a Venezuelan high government official and exchanged notes and made deals with respect to what was called the Donna Mercedes, I think. When the Venezuelan was buying the same boat, that was the name, and now it's called the Galleon's Passage. They say it's a new boat, but from the documents, we see that it was being built in 2015. We are in 2018. What, I don't know if my arithmetic is different from theirs, but definitely something 3 years later cannot be new. It is not a new boat. On back to the question then, I have to ask, when Venezuela refused to take the boat, I would like to know what was the price when Venezuela entered the agreement first before us. What was the price they had offered to pay for the boat, one? And did they make any payments on that boat? And now that Trinidad is taken, did they get any rebate on any payments they have made? And would there be something in that which has taken this valuation up from 19 to 35 and 38 million and so on? Minister, you owe us an explanation, and you need to give to the country, thank you, we need to give the country all the outstanding documents. My last point is on the anti-terrorism law, and that has to do with the bill before the House, and of course tomorrow we go back to the House on the anti-terrorism bill. Now, a lot of the things in that bill, we have been able to compromise with the government. Our members of the Joint Select Committee on the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill, MP Munila, MP Prakash Ramadar, and Senator Saddam Hussein, they were able, together with the help of the Islamic scholars, they were able to get a lot of the provisions changed. But when it came to the House, there were things that we still found objectionable and that would be very harmful to many persons, Muslims in our community, in our country. So out of concern, we raised them. And one had to do, the main concern we had was the tremendous powers they wanted to put into the hands of the Attorney General. They wanted the Attorney General to be able to request from something called the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, which keeps all your banking stuff and your transactions and so on, that the Attorney General could just request information and the FIU would have to give it. We fought against that because I am as strongly against as you would be for any politician to be given access to any information from private records of the country. So we fought them on that. And last day, we were in Parliament on Friday, last Friday, yes. They agreed with us and they removed them. The AG is still there, but he can only get records for what are designated entities, and these entities are ones sent to us from foreign, from the US or the UK and so on. But locally here, the AG will not have the power, and that power he already has, so we say if it's working so well, keep the one you have, but don't take any more power. And that's the position we are with this. We also made some changes, changes made in the GSA, which I think are very good. They've removed Arabic words and so on, and they've used instead a different demarcation, definition in the definition section. So again, removes the, the stigma that are Muslims involved. We got them to deal with zakat in a way that will not be to the detriment of the Muslim community. And there was a provision in the House that we fought for, on which they agreed, that is that when you leave, the minister could designate a part of a foreign country as a zone, a geographical zone, meaning a terrorist zone. And the minister could have done that, you would know, and you go there, you're in trouble. I want you to remember what is very frightening about this anti-terrorist bill, and that's why we are fighting so hard to have it in a proportionate way, in a balanced way. Because we do want to fight terrorists, but we do not want to fight those who are not terrorists and put them at risk. I've said it always and I repeat, not every Muslim is a terrorist, and not every terrorist is a Muslim. So we must have it proportionate and balanced in that regard. The fine, you have to pay money to pay, should you be found engaged in any of the activities that they have called terrorist activities. It's $25 million and 30 years in jail. So these are very, very serious matters. We go tomorrow, we'll continue to fight the Attorney General. I saw in the newspaper that he's saying, I don't know what they're so vexed about, I don't know what they're fighting. Now remember, he says it was there in the law from 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, up to 2018. Well, if those things were in the law, leave it. Why do you want to change it? That's what he's not explaining. He just says they're making noise, but they had it all this time, for all these years, up to now, 2018. So we told them in Parliament Friday, well, if it's like that, Keep it like that, but we are not giving you any more powers. No more powers for you. We do not trust you. We do not trust this government, and therefore we will not give you those powers. He wants to get power. He wants to get a new power, which he didn't have in the existing law. And he dares say he's being, people put it nicely, he's been disingenuous. Yes, he's been disingenuous. That's not the word really, but he's not speaking the truth. He says it was in the law, and we vex about that. He never had the power in law for what he now wants. He has to list a person as a terrorist. And when they list you as a terrorist, well, that goes out to the entire world. You can't step your foot outside your own door. You'll be listed as a terrorist worldwide, your name will go. And he wants to have the power now to refer information to the Commissioner of Police. And the Commissioner of Police will investigate you. And then the Commissioner of Police must give him a report of the investigation, a police report. I am totally, and we are totally against any Attorney General being given a police investigative report. And that's where tomorrow we will continue that fight. We will allow him to leave the law as is. We asked him, I think Dr. Tiwari asked him, so how many listing orders have you made? He said 350. So the question was, if you are making these orders and you're getting through, why you want to give yourselves more power? He couldn't properly explain it. He goes off on all these FATF and CFATF and UNSCR and all these fancy things that, majority of people don't understand. But the bottom line, I give you my commitment, our commitment. I will not vote for that law if the AG insists on giving unto himself more power. More power, we will not support it. Friends, I close tonight to tell you that as bad as things may seem, we can have hope, we can work together, and we will have to stand firm. So your voice matters very much. I want to congratulate one of your councillors here, Councillor Meru. You put on your radio any time of the day and night, and Councillor Meru is there fighting. Give him a round of applause. Your voice matters. To put the other side of the story, many of you do it. There's a young lady in Barataria, her name is Susan Charles. You will see on the Facebook, she will fight down anybody and everybody. Many of you do it. I read them so I know who's out there. I can't call all the names now. But that's where your voice matters. You can help us. Go up on the Facebook. Go out on the radio stations. Write letters to the editor. I see people doing it all the time, and it puts a different picture, the other side of the picture. Your MPs are doing their job. Barrow, why are you making noise? Why is there a feedback? Yes, so we are Facebook, radio, TV, yeah? Letters to the editor and so on. I ask you, let your voices be heard. Let's get the other side of the story as well. And so we have to let them know we will not accept the PNN corruption. From fairy tales, with bills of the magic mystery ferry going up in millions every day, this national investment Ponzi scheme, fake oil, runaway crime, joblessness, all the cuts on the food cards, the laptops. They took away the laptops. They have more taxes. I hear they want to give it back in September. I will wait and see, as we'll wait to see if this galleons ever arrives in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to, I really hope that they give out the laptops. My grandson wrote the essay, and he's with us tonight after an arduous few years of work. So for all the essay students going in September, we will pressure the government, as we've done for 2 years and 9 months, to give the students coming into the high school their laptops. And so how can we work to save Trinidad and Tobago? That is why I'm here. We in the opposition, we take our roles very seriously as guardians of our democracy and guardians of constitutional rights. This is why I ask you tonight to ensure that on July 16, every person that you know in Barataria and Belmont, you give them a call or visit them to, to exercise their franchise and to vote. And then further, on the national scale, I mentioned to you the ways in which you can help. Brothers and sisters, as bad as things may seem, we must forever remain hopeful. We can and we will overcome our challenges together. After all, I always tell you what matters most to us is our children. And so we will continue to work for them. They offer us hope. Every day that we are pummeled and pained by this wicked rowdy government, we bear it for the sake of our children, because we know that with hope, dreams and wishes can be fulfilled, life can be better, and a better future guaranteed. And what we can hope for now is for a day, for a morning when we wake up, knowing that we had a restful night, free from worries, free from crime, knowing that no crime affected anyone in our homes and in our communities. We want to wake up today when we don't see the headlines blood red of sons and daughters murdered. We want to wake up to a day when the food that we get up to prepare, that day will be a healthy day, a wholesome day, that it will be a day when we are not faced with panic about illness, about our members and our loved ones. I say together we can make that day happen. When we will feel safe, knowing that the community comfort patrols are back out there doing their job. When we're knowing that there's a National Operations Center actually operating to get intelligence to deal with crime. We want a day when we know we can care for our children, for the elderly, for the most vulnerable, that should they fall ill, they could get the best health care. We live in hope to make it happen that one day the Children's Hospital will be open. That there will be fully staffed and stocked district health facilities, that the pharmacy shelves will once again have the much needed CDAP medication, that there will be more world-class medical institutions backed by world-class staff. Dr. Bodo talked to you tonight about the amount of young doctors out there without a job, money spent in training them and jobless. And there will be more clinics in the rural areas for the old, for the vulnerable. They do not have to travel so far away to get much needed health care. How can we get to that day, I ask you? How do we get there? How do we get there? We have a long way to go in terms of pain and suffering. First of all, we must believe that this day is possible and that this day will come for a safer, more prosperous Trinidad and Tobago. We can make that day a reality when we stop thinking that the changes required are impossible and beyond us. When we believe that they are within our grasp, we can do it, and we can do it together. We sing in our anthem, every day, creed, every race, find an equal place. We have seen recently attempts in our society to divide us, and we must fight against division. A house divided unto itself could never prosper. We must stop it. We have seen a government attempting to demolish a temple here in FYZABAD. We have seen a government wanting to demolish a church in Barrackpore, as in Rodney's era, I think. And we've seen the government acting in a most insensitive manner when it comes to the population, the Muslim population of our country. So with them, no one is safe, no one is cared for. In the parliament, I pointed out to the government on this anti-terrorism bill that about 12% of our population are Muslims. Yes, from the CSO stats. And the Prime Minister get vexed about that. And he wake up suddenly, he sat through the whole evening in the parliament. Not a word to say. Suddenly wakes up and talks about his job is not to care about 12%. His job is to care for everybody 100%. Prime Minister, I tell you today, you are not taking care of 1%, 2 or 3 or 0% because no one is safe and protected from crime in our country. No one, no one. So do not pretend. Do not pretend. Do not pretend that you care. I have seen this crime situation getting out of control worse and worse. This Prime Minister is the chairman of the National Security Council. Chairman, you know. He has not a word to say. Young ones, old ones, women. We told you last day it was 1,355 persons murdered under his watch. And what does he have to say? Blame Kamla. Blame the UNC. Blame the police. Blame everybody except him and his government. Prime Minister, I say, wake up, take charge, and deal with crime now. Or you said you didn't want the job, well, give up the job and call an elections now. Call elections now and go out of the way. No more yellow cards. No more yellow cards. Today, we have a red flag and a red card to send him packing out of that job. Good night, God bless you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, political leader. And you know, you all know that Dr. Owen left to go to the hospital yesterday with some back injury. I spoke to his doctor, he told me, he said when he came in, he said, what happened there? He said, my back. He said, you know why I'm back out there? Because you're sitting here doing nothing. But let me thank, before we go, let me thank the APS board and Principal Mary for the use of the VEDIC school, the FYZABAD executive, Lily, and her team, Jai, Pearl, Chandra, and our own Kamla, the councillors and aldermen, all who attended, we want to thank you very, very much. Please be safe on the journey back home. We want to thank the media for being here, and also thank the police service for their kind assistance. With that, I want to thank you very much, and please have a